This episode of I Work For Him is sponsored by SaferNet, Patriot Mobile, and the U.S. Christian Chamber 2026 Expo, found online at swc2026.com, code I Work For Him. You've tuned into I Work For Him, the voice of collaboration for the faith and work movement.
And we are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg, and our mission is to inspire every workplace believer to recognize their workplace as their ministry place, where they work with God every day. What can that look like in your world? Well, let's find out right now.
Interior design. Is that a kingdom skill? Is there anything about designing the interior of a building that reflects an attribute of our God, the Creator? Everything He designed was outside, right? Well, until the 1800s, that's what everyone thought. And then we discovered the incredible riches just below the soil and just below the skin layer. That was interior design, right? What about the human body? Talk about incredible planning and layout. The human body is the most incredible interior design of all time. So if there's any doubt at the beginning of the show, there's no doubt now. Interior design is a kingdom skill that reflects the creative and planning attributes of God. Well, Emily Miller of Miller Interiors of Columbia, Missouri, is here today to tell us her story of God and her business and of a special Main Street event that she's part of later this fall. Emily Miller, welcome to I Work For Him.
Thanks, Jim and Martha. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so before we get to hear your faith and work story, let's talk about when you became a follower of Jesus. What's your story?
Sure. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, so pretty close to Columbia, in a Christian family. So to be honest, I don't quite remember a time when God wasn't part of my story. I guess specifically, I think my faith kind of became more real and personal when I was in elementary school. But, you know, my parents have been strong Christians my entire life, setting a really significant example for me. And I've been really blessed to have close friendships with other godly men and women my entire life. So really my faith has always been a part of who I am and my identity and my story.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And what a blessing. And then you get to share that with future generations as well. So let's talk then about your career. Did you always know? Why did you pick interior design? Is it something you always knew you wanted to do, or how did you get into it?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Missouri for college, and I started my freshman year as an education major. So growing up, I thought, I'll be a teacher. That will be the right career path for me. And when I started taking some specific education courses, I honestly kept thinking about what my classroom would look like. And I slowly just began to realize I like kids. I don't know if I want to spend 8 hours a day with kids. And so from there, I looked into what is the architectural studies program at Mizzou, and just fell in love. I had always been creative and appreciated beauty and aesthetics, but just hadn't really thought maybe that was the career path for me until starting those education courses. So just fell in love with it. Specifically, the program I was in focused mostly on commercial interior design. And it's such a fun combination of creativity and problem solving. That is just a challenge I still love to this day.
I love that. So you're saying, like you were more into like, okay, what's my classroom going to look like?
Yes.
And then you might have wanted to move on at that point. So
Yes.
that was good that you had that assessment of yourself at that point. So.
Did you
Yes.
ever get to implement any of those designs in your friends' classrooms?
So I worked for Mizzou, actually, for the campus for a number of years. So I did higher education design, which was really fun. And I will say, I think the relational aspect of education that was intriguing to me, there's carryover, right? In design, one of my favorite parts of my job is working with clients and identifying their needs and helping meet those needs, and even just getting to know them as people. So, yeah, there's definitely carryover from education, but I don't think God had me created for the classroom
There you go.
environment.
But I know so many friends that are teachers that, boy, the aesthetics of their classroom set the
Yes.
tone for the whole year. And
Right.
teachers do pour a lot into that. So as we're back to school and all the things for the fall, thank you, teachers, for all that you
Truly.
do. I mean, I'm just going to throw a shout out there because I believe we have a lot of teachers that listen to the show and are trying to incorporate their faith in their work. So there you go. There's my shout out.
So having gotten our first jobs in the late 80s, knowing that interior design in the corporate world was non-existent. It was buy a big square building, put walls and walls and walls of cubicles up, and there you go. That was design. And maybe a creative design was
Maybe a color.
A two-tone cubicle,
Yeah.
not a one-tone cubicle.
Yes.
I mean, is it really possible to make office interiors exciting or enjoyable or even pleasing?
I mean, I've spent a career doing it, so I hope so. I sure think so. I believe that your space and your environment really matters. And a business or a corporation that prioritizes that and prioritizes the comfort for their staff and ease and flow of a space and just the overall aesthetics. I think it's important. I think where you work matters. You spend a lot of time there. So I've had a lot of fun working on a variety of office projects. So yeah, I think it's important.
Oh, all right. I can't wait to walk into one of those office environments that you've designed
Yeah.
and be able to do the
Yes.
all right.
But you know what, Jim? I will say, I mean, we are not experts, but we rent offices to small businesses. And one of the gals, she had decided this was too far away from where she lived to stay here. But her biggest struggle with leaving here was she says, well, you've got it decorated so pretty and I love it here. And I'm going to have to go figure that out on my own. So like she's a counselor. So she needs an environment, that is a certain way. And so it did matter for her. And, we do feel good in an environment that is to our taste and is comfortable and all the things. You're way better at that than most of us. But when she said that, I was like, oh, yeah, I get that.
We can have you come down to Marionville, Missouri, and do an analysis of our office structure. All right, so you're a mom, you're a wife, you got 2 kids, 6 and 9 years old, and you run a successful business. How do you manage all that together?
That's a good question. I think you have to eliminate the desire for balance. I don't think that there's a world where you every single day feel balanced and like everything's under control. I think, personally, I've had to lower some of my expectations on, a personal level, on a family level, definitely on a career level. And, we can get into that a little bit more later, but I also have an incredible husband who is an incredible partner, and it's truly 50-50. So I've always worked as a mom, and really from the early stages of being parents, we sat down and in a very practical way said, okay, what are you managing? What am I managing? And that's how our household runs. So, some things are kind of backwards. He actually does most of the laundry. I do most of the finances. Like, we've figured out what our strengths are, and we're a team. So, there are some weeks like this morning, I realized we were basically out of lunch food for school. And there's ebbs and flows, and you have to be gracious with yourself. Sometimes your inbox isn't as organized as you want it to be, and your home isn't as organized as you want it to be. But I think you can, kind of define what are cultural expectations I'm putting on myself, and then what are godly expectations I should have on myself.
That's why Oscar Mayer came out with those Lunchables. Like, I can't make a sandwich. Here's a Lunchable.
They would love that. They would love to eat the yellow nacho cheese Lunchables every day. I love that.
I'm guessing she's not allowing that to happen, Jim.
I love the fact that she's like very specific.
It is
This
a
what they love
different
to-
generation. We just look at it this way. Our bodies have a lot more preservatives in them, so
yeah.
we're going to last longer because we're well preserved, right?
Yes.
So, you know, when you talk about all the different roles that you do have and that you manage, it can be hard to manage all those different hats that we wear in our day. But to be a good steward of what we do manage, it's often important that we find other people that can come alongside and take care of the things that are within their expertise. So when I work for him, we choose to have SaferNet by our side to protect all of our digital devices. Their web filters, VPN, and virus protection keep the bad guys out so that we can focus on the things that we need to manage and let them manage our devices. Check out safernet.com and let them know that I Work for Him sent you. Alrighty, so what does it look like for you to live out your faith and have your faith reflected in your interior designs?
Good question. You know, in some ways, I guess I don't really think through in like a physical, tangible way how my faith is reflected in my designs. Maybe that's something I should think on a little bit more. But I do think, you know, there's a long, detailed, often complicated process from when a client engages us for a project to its completion. And, you know, just thinking of that path, there are so many ways that my faith should be integrated and, you know, impact the process. And, you know, I think it's just having integrity. It is, you know, most of our time is hourly billable, and having integrity, you know, to be honest in that. You know, I think it's being thoughtful. Right now I have one employee and looking to grow my team. And so I think it's being really thoughtful in how can my leadership give my team a flourishing life. It's not just a paycheck. I want them to feel meaning and purpose behind their work. And so how can I pause in the crazy busyness of our project load and think through what team members specifically need on a personal and a professional level? You know, I think it's really being patient and thoughtful when clients are thinking through their project and kind of defining their needs and, you know, not rushing past that and just trying to think through how can my skills, how can my team's skills really bless and honor this business, whether it's an office renovation or a clinic or a hospital. How can we really pause and use the gifts that God has given us to honor our clients, and then even honor people that are going to use those spaces that I will never meet.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's just reflection. It's pausing. It's integrity. It's just being thoughtful.
So, you know, one of the biggest problems, I mean, hospitals. I mean, there's some beautiful hospitals out there, but you go inside, they all still look the same eventually, and it's the smells. So
I can't help with this.
no,
Yeah,
but
you can't control that.
But you can. I mean, what are you saying? Interior design can't impact the olfactory? I mean, that's a sense. Your interior design's about the senses, impacting the senses. I think you need to work on some way to impact the smells, because if you could make walking into the waiting room a lavender experience. To bring calming.
Give a little psh of
That's
lavender
right.
when you walk in.
Like real legit
I
lavender.
think that's the engineers and the HVAC that
There you go.
But you can.
I love that.
I'm just telling you. I'm just saying. All right. So, I mean, when you're dealing with designs with people, they're sharing their heart. Not only are they sharing their wallet, like this is going to cost me a lot of money to build this building because commercial building is so expensive, but they want their heart reflected. So I imagine often you get involved in conversations with people where they're sharing their heart with you. Do you ever get a chance to pray with people after they've shared their heart with you, or to pray over a design as they're talking with you? Have you ever had that opportunity yet?
You know, I have not. I think it's a delicate approach. You know, it's in some instances I want to be respectful of them, and you know, there's just a delicate line of being professional and not necessarily, you know, bringing your faith into a conversation that is more so business related. But, I do have clients that are very vocal about their faith. I work with a health system that is, they're Catholic in their mission, which is really beautiful and special. So I have had meetings where we've gotten to pray together and just talk through their mission, which is very much so aligned with my faith. But I would say my approach is not so much let's pray, but I hope that through my work ethic and patience with you and the process and the end result, that they would sense something different about how I do business.
So good. If the fruit of the Spirit is showing through in all that you do, you've said patience several times, and I only can imagine in the design world where, maybe I'm not going to go with purple. I want everything yellow or whatever. That is like, okay, let's, you have to regroup, and kudos to you for all of that.
Yes.
Emily, we made our connection because of the Main Street Summit event that's coming up here in November 4th through the 6th in Columbia, Missouri, right where you're living. What's this event all about, and why are you involved?
Yeah, so Main Street it's really wonderful. It's about a 2-day long event focusing on small to medium businesses, business owners, operators. I would say anyone with an entrepreneurial spirit would enjoy it. It is full of amazing speakers and some larger group sessions, and then some smaller, more intimate group settings, a lot of networking, a lot of opportunities for conversations, honestly, just like this. So last year I spoke at the event and really enjoyed it, really loved it. And they've asked me to come back. So I'll be speaking this year again.
And are you going to give us a little hint of what you're talking about?
Sure. So I am in the faith and work track. So this year is a little bit different. They're defining 7 different tracks, and faith and work is one of them. So awesome. I will certainly be integrating, my faith in the message, but also want it just to be open to, anyone interested in the topic I'm discussing, which is leading with purpose at work and at home. So talking through some practical strategies of kind of managing home and work, which we've talked about this morning, talking through partnership with your spouse and, specifically a spouse that is also driven in their career, and how to support one another and cheer each other on. And then lastly, just talking through some biblical encouragement for working parents. Something I have just really wrestled with in my 9.5 years as a mom is God's calling for my life as a working parent. So, I grew up with a mom who stayed home, which was lovely. My husband is a pastor, and I think this has changed and evolved in the church over, the last decade. But I do think specifically for women, we haven't spoken enough about God's calling to us as workers.
As marketplace leaders, for sure.
Yes,
absolutely.
Sure.
Which is a great reason to plug our She Works for Him podcast that we've done all about Christian working women at work. You can find access to that on our I Work For Him website, iworkforhim.com. You gave the plug, so I did it. We will include a link to the Main Street Summit in the show notes, so you can find out about it. It is November 4th through the 7th in Columbia, Missouri. There will be phenomenal. The Faith and Work track is full of phenomenal speakers you've heard right here on the I Work For Him podcast, especially Emily Miller, who you get to hear today. And speaking of other great events in the faith and work space, there are several events Martha and I will be involved in 2026. 2 big events are the U.S. Christian Chamber Expo in Orlando called Yes and the National Faith and Work Summit in Cincinnati. The U.S. Christian Chamber Expo is in April in Orlando, and the National Faith and Work Summit, Cincinnati, in June. Go to iworkforhim.com/events to learn more about them. Choose one or both to attend, and we'll get to see you there.
All right. So so you talked a little bit about what you're going to be talking about at the summit, but being a speaker there, you're likely to meet other speakers who have things that you may want to learn about being a business owner. Since there's 7 different tracks and speakers, like David Green from Hobby Lobby. So we've loved hearing, the story of Hobby Lobby
What
over
a
the
sweetheart
years.
he has. We've gotten to spend some time with him.
I'm guessing you've looked through who else is going to be there. Who else are you interested in hearing from?
I should have a better
maybe
answer
not.
to this question. I have looked through the list, and every year every single speaker I've attended has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's often though been the speakers that I didn't know a lot about, maybe don't have a huge following that I've learned a lot from.
Yeah.
And then I think in addition to that, which I kind of referenced earlier, just those sidebar conversations have been very, very meaningful. So, people you maybe sit by at a session and get to know, trade your information. There are still, people that I met last year that I keep in touch with. And, we talk about business things, we talk about life things. And so I think all of the speakers are phenomenal. You will not choose a speaker you don't like. But I think, as important is just the connections that you can make.
Yeah. Well, and that's true of, Jim was talking about some events that we're going to be emceeing this year and in 2026. And both of them are in person, much like your event, because there's so much value in sitting next to each other. Yes, Zoom calls are great. Yes, doing virtual things help us to continue to learn. But there is just something about that unscripted time where you're just getting to know people over a lunch or whatever that might be. And so I want to encourage our listeners, if you're looking ahead to your calendar, either for this fall or for next year, try to include an in-person event in your agenda. Yes, it takes more time. Yes, it takes more money, but it's just got a different value on it. And I encourage that because God created us for community, and sometimes that just has to be in the flesh and blood.
I agree.
He created us all for community, but he didn't give us all the gift of creativity. But you, Emily Miller, have been given a gift from God, creativity, organization, and the ability to make spaces feel warm, purposeful. Do you see yourself as the hand of God as you transform buildings and companies because of the spaces you create?
I hope so. I think that what's really fun about my job is I get to take a client's needs and create a vision to meet those needs that they most likely couldn't create themselves. And I think that's so similar to our walk with God, right? God knows what we need, and he has plans for us that we can't even comprehend. And, there are some times in our lives where we're able to pause and reflect and just thank God for what he's done. Just seeing, okay, you had a plan here that I couldn't have comprehended, but it was perfect for my life. And so not to say that I am God, but I hope that, there are moments for my clients. And like I said earlier, patients in a hospital or at a clinic or employees at a business that can enjoy the aesthetics and the comfort and the safety and the durability of a space that I have helped to create, and can just feel at peace. And so yeah, I hope that I can honor people in that way.
That's so good. And it's good to reflect on that and to see where God has brought you in the journey. So what is one last word of encouragement that you could give our listeners right now about running their own business and their marriage and their family that you've maybe learned that you want to make sure other people know about?
Yeah. So I have a 2-word phrase that I have used a lot over the summer, and it is not now. So whether that is things in my home, like a mess in the dining room, or, a disorganized toy room, or it's, things in my office that I wish looked different, or, even clients I really want to go after, but I don't have the margin. I think just saying not now and finding peace in that.
Yeah.
And just, setting those realistic expectations is really important.
Oh, that's so good.
That was good. You
Very
could write
good.
a sermon series.
Not
there
now.
might be a book. There's a book there. Not Now by
Not
Emily
now.
Miller. That's right.
Not
Not now. Not a book right now.
It's definitely not a book right now. Nope.
Look for a book
But
about
God
a decade
can already
from now
be
by Emily
writing
Miller. That's right.
God could be
Yeah.
writing the story now, and someday it will be maybe.
Yes.
Emily Miller, thanks for being on I Work for Him today. Thanks for just sharing your heart with us. Even right now. You chose to do this right now. So that was
Didn't say
good.
not now.
If you're interested in meeting Emily face to face, check out mainstreetsummit.com and attend the event November 4th through the 6th. There's lots of great speakers who are going to be there, and Emily will be one of them. Emily Miller, thank you.
Thank you both.
You've been listening to I Work for Him with your host, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. Our workplace, it's our mission field, but ultimately, I work for him. This episode of I Work for Him is sponsored by SaferNet.com, PatriotMobile.com/I Work for Him, and the U.S. Christian Chamber 2026 Expo, found online at SWC2026.com, code I Work for Him.
Thanks for listening to the I Work for Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work for Him Nation, and to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. While you're there, check out the Tapestry Database, a growing directory of faith and work organizations. You can also follow us on social media at I Work for Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's I Work for Him and online at iworkforhim.com. I work, the number 4, him.com.